Alright guys, Grapple here, back again. It has been a while. About 18 months, face cam first of all. Second of all, different style content now. If you're just here for the content, my verdict on Black Ops 4, whether 5v5 is going to work, whether the control mode's any good, which guns are too strong, which things need banning, what tweaks I would make to make the game even better, what I think about the maps, all that stuff. Go to the timestamp on screen or down the description box below and skip all the intro stuff. But for the first few minutes I just want to have a quick update on my personal situation for anyone that may have stumbled across this video, that used to watch my videos way back in the day. I guess this is for you guys and for anyone else who might be interested. So effectively the old style content that I was doing, I'm not going to be doing quite the same style thing anymore. The montages I was doing towards the end I'm still going to try and bring back because I've got a lot of clips, but anyway, I guess I'll just start with a personal update. So since I last uploaded a video, I've done my A-levels, then I'm at the University of Bath. I did the whole first year at the University of Bath, and now I'm here in the summer, so time goes by pretty quickly. And for the last, say, 3 months, well, okay, so since I stopped uploading a video, since I last uploaded a video, I've become really invested in the competitive side of Call of Duty. I guess that was kind of inevitable, the way my gameplay breakdowns were going. It was more analytical and it was kind of verging on that way, moving away from more public match stuff. And that's why towards the end my montages were like game battles and competitive style stuff, but I wasn't finding room to make content alongside that, if you see what I mean. So I did take a bit of a break and, you know, didn't focus on YouTube for a while. But now I'm back, baby. Back with a bang. Well, hopefully at least. So, I've been working for the last few months with the Call of Duty Gamepedia guys. You're not aware of who they are. It's effectively a Wikipedia page. Not a Wikipedia page, but it's an own wiki site for everything Call of Duty competitive related. You can see all the results, all the team changes, all that stuff's on there. And I've been working with them under the official title of lead journalist, but I think that's a bit flattering, say. And I've been writing articles for them for the last few months, really. I usually just do one about every week because I've also been working with another online news outlet called The Game House, doing more actual news related stuff. But regardless of that, I'm looking to branch out the content beyond just articles and start doing video related stuff, because there's not many people in the competitive Call of Duty scene that actually do video stuff. Now Fox has been doing it for a while. He's come on board with the COD Gamepedia guys as well, but I think he was on holiday or something, so maybe he's bringing back the content soon. But I wanted to try and do my own thing, in addition to starting up like a podcast. And, you know, I just want to try some things out in addition to just writing articles, you know, because I enjoy the video stuff, and I always have done. I enjoy editing it. I enjoy making like a final product which is really good. So today we're going to do Black Ops 4 competitive verdict. The next video is going to be probably to do with power rankings for Call of Duty champs. So with the articles I write, it's quite likely that there'll be a lot of supporting videos to the articles to explain my thoughts in more depth, because the power rankings that I've done for Call of Duty champs starting in 10 days, I did the rankings for like 16 teams. Every team pretty much I wrote a paragraph on. It's already like 1800 words, but you can't say everything you want to say. So hopefully a video will give me more chance to explain myself, and I think you guys will enjoy the content. So if you're here from way back in the day, give this video a go. If it's not for you, feel free to unsubscribe, etc, etc. And if you're new here and happen to listen to this and didn't skip to the timestamp, well, thanks a lot anyway. But I best get a crack on with the video. I didn't probably say that right, but anyway, better crack on. Thank you guys for watching, and enjoy the content. Alright hustlers, the glasses are on. We've got a sheet of notes. We're going to go through this step by step. First of all, I should start with my initial impressions of the game. I do really like the game. The game is fun, it's fast paced, the maps are good, the gunplay is good. There's not many annoying things in the game that I don't think can be changed easily. The maps are fine, the score streaks are underwhelming, but you know, they're standard, there's nothing too annoying. I think the specialists add something to the game, and you know, there is annoying things, no question about it. I think the maps play well for the game modes, and you know, if you haven't given it a go yet, I'd give it a go, because it is a very fun game. I'm having almost as much fun as I did in Black Ops 3 beta, and that is saying something, because that was probably my favourite game ever. So hopefully Black Ops 4 can live up to the plate when the full game does drop. But effectively the beta is a demo anyway, so we know what it's going to be like, and it's very good. However, there are many concerns for competitive, as there always are. I'll start with a preface that Treyarch is not very eager from history to ban things that are too powerful. We've seen in Black Ops 3, they introduced ban and protect, and they thought that was going to be like the be all and end all. They thought that we'll put ban and protect in, we won't have to ban anything standard. We can leave the game just as they would play pubs with slightly different rules, and the UAVs, the pros will just ban the UAVs, they'll ban the bullshit. Obviously that's not going to work, because the lower tier teams in that system would just protect the UAVs and play a completely different game. They'd just be playing pubs against the pros. That's not competitive at all. That was their initial assertion I should say, and it took them a while to backtrack to the point where they were happy to ban things from the game full stop. But even then they didn't ban some things. In the competitive rule set, in ranked play, awareness was still allowed, or in arena it was called awareness. You had to ban awareness out of the ban and protect every single time. High caliber and rapid fire, I have no idea why they're still allowed. They got banned out every ban and protect. And honestly, like, just having some things as permaban, having even more things as permaban in Black Ops 3 would have made the ban and protect a lot cooler, because it would have been a lot more like, how can we suit the meta to our game, rather than having 6 base bans every single time the ban and protect started. So that's a preface to what I'm going to say about Treyarch, because I don't think they're very willing to ban stuff, and we have to be pretty vocal about the things that need to go. So let's start with 5v5, because that's a big topic of conversation, whether competitive is going to go to 5v5. Personally, I don't think it's valid. I've played 5v5 on these maps in Hardpoint, and it really doesn't feel much different to what 6v6 did in previous games, like in 6v6 pubs, say. And added onto the fact that when the full game releases, we're getting Slums, Firing Range, Jungle, which isn't going to be competitive, and Summit. Slums, Firing Range, and Summit could all be competitive maps. They are designed for 4v4 competitive. Like, we know that Slums is, and the maps in this game so far aren't spectacular, so I'd be very surprised if Slums isn't a competitive map in the full release, and that is just not going to work for 5v5. 5v5 will change more than a lot of people expect. There's so many different things going on in a 5v5 scenario. The spawns are all kinds of crazy already in 5v5 pubs that we're playing right now, because they reduced it to 5v5. I think it would be absolutely mental in 5v5 competitive. I don't think the maps are big enough. I'm willing to try it, I'll say, but I don't think it's a change that's necessary, and I don't think it's a change that the maps allow for. They're just not big enough. You look at CSGO, S&D, obviously they play Diffuse it's called, but it's basically S&D, and the maps are very big. You have many lanes for a 5v5 S&D situation, and our maps, first of all, aren't big enough to play 5v5 S&D on in a competitive setting. I was watching the S&D kids yesterday play like wagers on the game, so they have like 5 players and then they try and get in an S&D lobby at the same time and hope they get in the same lobby, keep trying until they do, then they play wagers. It's an absolute mess. People are all over the place. It's so much chaos. People are 5-hitting stuff. It's mental on the current maps. And we know another 4 of the maps that are coming to the game. We've seen 5 so far in the first weekend of the beta, so that's 9 out of, like, say 14 maps are going to be in the game. That is very representative of how the game's going to be. There's not going to be more maps that are going to change my mind on this. The maps currently are not suited for 5v5 competitive play. That's my thoughts. Maybe it will change, but I think that the maps are too small for 5v5 competitive search. Hardpoint and respawn game modes would be even more crazy. So I don't think it's suitable. Let's move on to Control, the new game mode. It's kind of a combination of Search and Destroy and Hardpoint. You have 2 zones on the map that the attacking team has to capture, and both teams have 30 lives. So the attacking team either has to eliminate all the defenders. So you kill the defender, he dies, he respawns, they now have 29 lives left, right? When they have 0 lives, you win, as long as the time doesn't run out. And it's kind of like demolition, where you have a set amount of time to capture one of the objectives, and then once you do that, then your time goes up a little bit more. And I think the way the timing is done is pretty good right now. And honestly, Control is a fun game mode. I enjoy playing it, especially because yesterday we were playing 10s. So like we'd get 5 guys, and as I say before, with the wager kids, we'd try and get in the lobby at the same time, and then we'd play like 5v5 kind of semi-competitive in the beta against each other. And Control's really fun for that. But I'm not sure it really has a place in competitive play. So Hardpoint, I think, is our best game mode we have in Call of Duty. It's the one that's most unique to us. It creates fantastic, intense matchups. It's almost always good and fun to watch. And I think it's the most unique and best thing that Call of Duty has to offer. Search and Destroy is the second best game mode we have. It's traditional Call of Duty, but you look at CSGO and other competitive shooters, and our Search and Destroy game mode gets overshadowed by them. If we had everything as completely Search and Destroy, then our game would be overshadowed for sure. We need game modes like Hardpoint to take us the extra mile. Our third game mode is Capture the Flag right now. We used to have Uplink, now it's Capture the Flag this year. I like Capture the Flag personally. Can be a bit boring, but when there's stalemates and intense situations, it's a nice change of pace from the other game modes. And I think if Control was to slip in, I think it should replace the third game mode. I really don't like the idea what we had in Black Ops 3, where we have 4 game modes, where people played Hardpoint, S&D, Uplink, CTF, then S&D again. Like, the first 4 maps all being different game modes. I didn't like that at all, because you got so many reverse sweeps where the first team would win the hardpoint in the search, then the second team was just better at uplink and CTF, and then they would win the final search. I think if you were to make a reverse sweep, you should have to beat the team that beat you in the first 2 maps on the same 2 game modes they beat you on. So they beat you on hardpoint search, you have to beat them on hardpoint search to win. So I only like a 3 game mode system. I think it keeps things nice and simplified for the viewer as well. That's a big thing. So if Control was to replace a game mode, it couldn't replace hardpoint or search. And I think there still needs to be 2 of those in each series. I think that's the best competitive format we have. So it could replace the 3rd game mode, and I'm happy to give it a try in competitive. But the problem is it's kind of a mixture of hardpoint and search already. So to have hardpoint, S&D, Control, which is kind of hardpoint and S&D, then hardpoint, then S&D, yeah, I'm not sure about that so far. One other thing about Control is that it seems it's kind of like what my criticism of having a war in World War II was. It's like with war, it's designed so that the attacking team is favoured on all of the objectives until the last one, where it's effectively 50-50, right? That's how it works. So a good competitive team, if you were playing war, would capture the first 3, and then the last one would be a 50-50 if they were playing at the peak of their powers. I feel like it's the same thing in Control. If your attacking team is well coordinated at their rotations, you can manipulate the defenders into coming to B and then stack all your guys towards A, win a couple gunfights, and the first capture, from my experience, seems almost guaranteed from a good attacking team. The attackers definitely have an advantage to gain to capture the first hardpoint or the first control point first, and I think that's a problem for competitive, because the first control point, whichever one's closest to the attacking team's spawn, that does tend to favour the attackers, which I don't really like, because I think in competitive play what we would see is that the attacking team, they always capture the first one, and then it's like a 50-50 on the last one. And I think it would be almost a foregone conclusion that the attackers would take the first control point, which I think makes for pretty boring playstyles. That's my opinion on Control. I'm not convinced, put it that way. Okay, let's go on to my gripes with the game. There's a few things with the game which are not good. The first of all is the stim and armor thing. Now, I will say this. I really like the new health system. If you're not aware, your health no longer auto-regenerates. You have to manually shove a stim pack in your arm or in your chest or wherever the hell he puts it, and then you start to regenerate your health. And then after, I think it's 7 seconds, then you get your stim pack again so you can stab yourself again. So if someone tags you up, you go down to like, and also you have 150 health. So, but the guns do slightly more damage to compensate. So if you get tagged up from a distance, you go down to 120 health. You can stim and regen to 150, but then someone else shoots you and you get in a quick gunfight. You go down to 20 health. You have to wait another few seconds before you can regen again. Now, there's a piece of equipment called stim, which you can put in your class. There's a new thing in Creator Class called the gear section. There's 5 different pieces of gear so far. The most prominent ones are the stim pack and the armor. The stim pack allows your health to regenerate faster when you regenerate your health, and it also gives a shorter delay between when you can regenerate your health. That's the first one. The second one, which I have a big problem with, is armor, which gives you 50 extra base health at the start, which is effectively like Juggernaut. And I'll explain my reasoning as to why these two things are horrible for competitive play. First of all, armor. You give someone 50 extra armor point, you give someone 50 extra health. When I engage into a gunfight with someone, I need to know how much health they can possibly have at 100%. So it's the same thing as Modern Warfare Remastered. I am looking at a guy down the barrel. I know that my gun does this amount of damage at that range. I know that I can kill him from here. I go and shoot at him, he has Juggernaut, he gets away, he regens, he's now in the advantage because he knows my position. I have no way of knowing he has Juggernaut before I engage into the gunfight. He gets a benefit that he should not be getting. The same thing applies with armor. I go to shoot a guy, I should know how many bullets it's going to take to kill him before I engage. I have no way of knowing when I look at him, of telling whether he has armor or not. There's no way of telling. So when I engage, I don't know whether I'm entering an unfair gunfight or not, which is a big problem for competitive play. The same thing applies to the stim pack, because say I shoot a guy, he gets around the corner. I know that as soon as he gets, so say I shoot him twice, I see his health bar, it goes down to like 100 or whatever. I know that as soon as he gets around the corner, he's going to start regenning. So I go and challenge him. If he doesn't have stim pack, then I know that he will have regenerated maybe a little bit to 125 when I go and challenge him. I then shoot him again, he goes around the corner again. I know for a fact, if he doesn't have stim, that he cannot regenerate for another 5 or so seconds, because it takes 7 seconds before you get your regen back. I can go challenge him and finish off the kill, guaranteed. However, if he has stim pack, he gets around the corner, he regenerates, he has more health than I thought he would. Then I shoot him again, he gets around the corner again, he can regenerate his health again. And he's back to 150 and he takes me down. Through no fault of my own. He has an advantage there in having stim pack, which I was not aware that he had. Everyone needs to be in the same boat in positions like this. So, those are my thoughts on that. Stim and armor have to go. They have no place in competitive play. The regen system is pretty good and I actually like it, but stim and armor, messing with people's health, people have more health than others, especially in a game where everyone should be the same guy, is a big problem for me and I don't like it at all. Therefore, if people can't use stim and armor, they might use some of the other what do they call them, gears, that's right. So one of the gears is like overclock. It allows you to get your stuff quicker, your equipment and specialist, alright? I'm fine with that. Second, you've got an acoustic sensor, which is effectively awareness. Not fine with that. But, I don't know. I'm not too problematic with people having awareness, but then again, using it in search, if it can be countered by dead silence or whether it can't. I don't like stuff like that. I'd prefer everyone to sound the same. And then the third option is Hardline, which is an interesting one. Because if you think back to Black Ops 3, Hardline was allowed in the form of anti-up, which gave you like 75 points towards your streak, right? In this, it's called the ComSec device, and it just reduces the amount of score required to get any streak, basically. So it's pretty damn good. And I'm wondering whether that will be allowed in competitive play. I kind of fancy it being possible to be used. But you know, we'll see with that. My main gripes are with stim and armor being in the game. I think they need to go, and everyone needs to have the same regenerating system like they used to, because it's very problematic when you have no idea when you're entering an engagement what type of engagement you're going to enter into. That's a big problem for competitive play. Let's move on to the specialists, because we have some problems here to talk about. Okay, so there's currently 10 specialists in the game. I'm looking on my screen. So, let's start from the top. Ajax, how do you want to pronounce him? He has a ballistic shield that he can run with and shoot through without you being able to shoot back. I'm not so sure what place that has in competitive play. I don't think he can put it down on the ground, but he holds it in front of him, he can block all bullets, and he can shoot you through it where you can't shoot him back and support his teammates, all that stuff. You know, I don't like the idea of that. Maybe I'm a traditionalist, but I prefer my gunplay to be pretty standard, pretty bog standard. And someone running around with a ballistic shield that he can shoot me and I can't shoot back, and he can support his whole team running into a hard point, but there's nothing I can really do to counter that. I have a problem with that. Even if my team can have one as well, they have something overpowered, does not make it excusable because we also have the same overpowered thing. The ballistic shield I have an issue with. His special issue 9 bang, that's okay. It's just a flashbang that goes off 9 times. It is very powerful though. The tac mask can counter it. Second, you have battery is back again. The war machine, which is fine if a bit powerful, and the cluster grenade, which is also just a grenade but very powerful. But nothing very uncompetitive that can't be fixed. Third, you have Crash. Now, Crash is a problem, I think. His ability is you can put a pack on the floor, which gives your team ammo, if they want it, more ammo, a lot of ammo, and it also, the ammo gives you higher score towards your score streaks, which I don't think is that uncompetitive, because it's kind of difficult for your team to necessarily get to the ammo pack and pick it up. However, his main equipment is it effectively gives everyone 200 health. It's very stupid. He puts the numbers in the iPad, and everyone on his team bumps up to 200 health. So if you're about to assault an objective, you bump your team up to 200 health, you have the advantage in the gunfights. Now, I know I said about stim pack and armor is a problem, but with Crash, you are aware when they have higher health, because you can see their health bars has a little yellow bit at the end. So you can tell that they have more health, so you kind of know into the engagement what you're expecting. I don't mind it so much. What I do have a problem with is that everyone on your team, when you call it in, they will jump up to 200 health no matter what health they're in. I don't mind, if they are on 150 health already, and then it gives them an extra 50, I don't mind that. But I've had situations when I'm in a gunfight, I'm shooting a guy, I get him down to 20 health, his teammate on the other side of the map presses the numbers in the iPad, he is immediately back to 200 health and he wins the gunfight against me. Like, there was nothing I could do there. It was completely out of my control that I lost that gunfight, and that I don't like. I think nerfing that to the point where it gives all your teammates 50 extra health, maybe just do that for competitive play so it's more balanced, because when you've got teamwork involved, Crash will be even stronger. Fourth one, Firebreak. He's fine, he's got a flamethrower. He's also got this reactor core thing, which is kind of like Heatwave, but he pushes it in the ground, and everyone around him gets like a Heatwave effect, and they can't regen their health. I don't mind that too much. Nomad has to go fully. He has a dog that just runs around and kills people. The dog is so good, it doesn't make any sense. The dog is like the most powerful thing in the entire game. It should be a score streak. It gets like 3, 4, 5 kills every single time. It runs so quick. It takes you down like Riley, but it goes even quicker than the one before. And he also has a trip mine, or whatever it's called. Trip mines are also, in my opinion, pretty uncompetitive. Prophet is pretty good overall. He has a Tempest weapon, which is kind of like what it was before, but instead of a one-shot kill, it puts them on the ground, and then you have to shoot them again. But you get a lot more bullets than you did before, and it also fires immediately, I think. He has like a little Segway thing that he throws out, which is like stuns people as well. I don't mind that too much either. Recon has to go fully, because he has Vision Pulse, which was obviously banned in Black Ops 3. See everyone through the walls. Like, it doesn't get much worse than that. His secondary or his tactical is like a sensor dart, which he fires everywhere, and it gives a little motion sensor thing around it. I also don't like that. Anything that's helping you locate enemies, I don't like at all. Ruin is generally fine. He has the gravity spike thing again. This time he also has the Grapple Gun. The Grapple Gun's pretty cool. I actually kind of like it. My only problem with it is that it can mess up timings in Search and Destroy, or in a hardpoint for that matter. The Ruin guy can run in at the start, he grapples onto something, he flies over, and you know, it messes up the timing, so he gets there quicker than you're expecting him to. I think maybe just a simple change, like Ruin cannot use his grapple for the first 15 seconds of a round, would probably solve that. But the grapple's cool, it opens up a skill gap in that. You have a really good player with the grapple, knows where to grapple to, he's flying all over the map, he's baiting out shots and stuff. I like it overall. Seraph, okay. First of all we have the Annihilator, which is much stronger than the Black Ops 3 one. Because after you shoot, you don't have to cock your gun. You just shoot, and then you can shoot again. Bam, 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 bam. You can fire 6 shots in a row if you want. Very, very strong, but nothing that cannot be nerfed if required. The secondary is ridiculous, or the tactical is ridiculous. It's a tactical spawn beacon or something like that. You put it on the ground and all your teammates spawn in very close proximity to it. Now, I feel like it doesn't need explaining why this shouldn't be allowed in hardpoint. You go to a hardpoint, you put the tac deploy beacon down, your boys constantly spawning on the hardpoint, messing up all the spawn locations. The enemy team has no influence possibly on the spawns because the spawn beacon is controlling the pace of the game. 100% needs to go. Also in Search and Destroy, apparently, I have no idea which guy at Treyarch thought this was a good idea, but in S&D, if you put down a spawn beacon, it allows your team to respawn on it for 1 round. And I thought it was a glitch when I first heard about it, but they doubled down in their post today that actually that's intended, and because both teams can use it, it's now okay. And apparently, it's my fault for being an S&D traditionalist that I'm not accepting it, but regardless. So that has to go. Torque, I think, is probably his whole character has to go. He has a riot shield, a ballistic shield that he puts down on the ground. You can head glitch it, has a lot of health, even has a microwave turret suppression effect at the front. You can block off doorways with it. Also, it has he has razor wire that you can put down. You know, any of that stuff. I just like gun on gun action, you know. I don't want all this bullshit on the floor, let's put it that way. Razor wire, like, you know, it's getting too far. There's a lot of specialist characters that are going to need to be straight up banned or very much tweaked for this to be a good competitive game. Now if it is 4v4, they only have to choose 4 characters, so Battery, Firebreak, Ruin, and probably Prophet are the good ones. Everything else has something dodgy with it. So even out of 10, like, there's only 4 that I would say are realistically good to go for competitive out the gate. And I really hope that Treyarch tries to ban things and or change things for the competitive rule set to give them more variety. Because currently, a lot of those things are not going to work in a competitive sense. Okay, let's talk about gun balance. Specialists are out of the way. The balance is currently pretty good. There's some weapons which are complete trash, but there's the MX9, which is very good. The Spitfire SMG is also very good. It's basically the Vesper, very high fire rate, kills incredibly quickly. It also has very low recoil for some reason, but obviously compensated by very low damage. But watching the S&D kids play Wages last night, they were all using the Spitfire. So I actually think that's probably the best gun in the game right now, especially considering the close range elements of the maps. The ARs are pretty... Well, the ICR is very good as far as I'm concerned. I haven't really tried the higher up ones yet. The ABR, which is the AUG, is very good also. So let's say the 3-1 burst one. The Swordfish is like the M8, also pretty powerful. But the other ARs, as far as I'm concerned, don't really do too much. Well, actually the Scar's quite good as well. So to be fair, the ARs are balanced pretty nicely. One thing they do have is they have different attachments for the different guns. Now I kind of like this idea because it means that it adds another element to which you can balance the guns for competitive play. So for example, the Scar and the ICR you can't have stock on, which makes them difficult to use in close range engagements, and somewhat worse than their counterparts. So another weapon such as the KN or whatever, which is effectively the AK weapon, it's a weaker weapon than the ICR, but once you get stock on it, it kind of becomes a contender because it has an extra element to which, well, I can move quicker with this, and maybe it's better in close quarters than the ICR would be, although the ICR statistically outperforms it. So it adds another element to gun balance. So, however, when I talk about stock, there's one thing which is pretty important here, which I guess I was happy to see, but I'm not sure I'm happy to see the extent to which it's true. The SMGs dominate close range. Because the good rifles do not have stock, outside of I think the ABR, maybe the Swordfish does as well. The ABR does have stock, but even that's not very good at close range because today they nerfed the hip fire on it. The SMGs dominate close range, but they do nothing at distance. The time to kill, we know the time to kill is high. SMGs take a lot of bullets to kill at a distance, especially considering they're apparently adding ballistics to the SMGs, which means that instead of having a hit scan, where as soon as I pull the trigger the guy feels the shot, there's a travel time involved, which might mean that the bullets drop at certain ranges, so you'd have to aim above people, and things get complicated. But effectively what it means is SMGs are trash at range, and ARs are not very good up close. The SMGs have very high fire rates in general, dominate the ARs up close. The ICR, especially because it has no stock, you're effectively standing still. You can't do any left trigger aiming. The SMGs are moving about all over the place. The stock on the MX9 is very powerful. You can swing left and right all the time. The SMGs win close range gunfights a lot. The ARs will destroy SMGs at range in general, which I think is kind of a good thing because it promotes positional play. You can't run around with a PPSH like you can in World War II as like a jack of all traits gun, not worrying about a long range, because if I get a fight, I'll probably have a good chance anyway. In this game, you're not going to have a good chance. The ARs have to be careful to play a slower style and let the SMGs go first. You can't just run around with an AR like you could in Infinite Warfare, Black Ops 3, the jetpack games really. Just run around with an AR and expect to destroy people up close. It's not going to happen. Which I think in general is a good thing, so I'm happy to see that. Predictive Recoil is what we'll discuss. Predictive Recoil is what Treyarch have added to the game. Effectively what it means is, every gun has a certain recoil pattern that tends a certain way. Doesn't mean that every single time you shoot the gun it does exactly the same thing. So the MX9, it goes up and to the right, trends every time. Or that way on your screen, I guess. So, I think it's good overall. I think it does have some problems though. So, the idea of Predictive Recoil is that the good players can master the recoil and have a better understanding of the weapon. Now, it's obviously not perfect, but we're playing on console anyway, so even if it was a perfect recoil pattern, it'd be very difficult to reproduce. However, there are some problems with it. You look at the Spitfire, the Vesper Gun, you would expect that weapon to be a high recoil, relatively high damage weapon, but effectively it's a laser beam, and a lot of the guns in this game have very low recoil, and I realise why Treyarch have had to do that. The problem is, you give something like the Spitfire high but predictable recoil, the professional players will be able to control that recoil, and give it high damage to compensate for the high recoil. It's now an incredibly strong weapon, which is very strong in the hands of the pros, but not so strong in the hands of a casual player who can't control the recoil so well. That's the thing with predictable recoil. You can't offset the recoil with higher damage because it's so controllable for a professional. Even if it's very strong, if they put in a lot of time, that gun will now be infinitely better for a professional than it would be in a casual match. And therefore, in order to restrict guns with high recoil being compensated for by high damage, and those guns would be very strong in the hands of a very good player, in order to compensate for that, they've had to tone down the recoil to very low. Which I think is probably the only solution in order to prevent competitive and casual players from drifting apart even more in what guns are used in certain circumstances. So I think Predictive Recoil sounds good in theory, but in reality I don't think it's going to affect our play style that much. One thing that it may affect though is the headshot multiplier. Headshot multiplier in this game is 100% a thing. I read today on the Black Ops 4 beta update that Treyarch put out that the ABR, the 3-round burst, used to be able to kill in 2 shots to the head, which is big deal. That's without high caliber. So headshot multiplier is definitely a thing, and with predictive recoil, I think maybe that's what they're getting at. That if you can control the recoil, maybe you can aim for the head and keep controlling the recoil. And I like the idea of a high headshot multiplier in theory, as long as there's no flinch. And this game also has very low flinch, so it's looking promising. Because typically, the reason why you get headshots is because you get flinched and it hits the head. But in this game, if you aim for the head, you actually probably will kill them quicker, which puts it more in line with other high-end shooters, which I kind of prefer. If you aim for the head, you kill in a bullet less. Kind of makes sense to me, as long as it's skill-based aiming for the head. And also, it makes head glitches less powerful, which I'm happy to see. So that's a very good change in my opinion. One thing that might not be such a good change for competitive is operator mods. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but it's like a special secret attachment you unlock on the gun. You have to use a wild card to get it. The ABR has an attachment called the Burst Accelerator. You remember the XR2 from Black Ops 3? You could hold down the trigger and it would keep firing rather than you have to keep pressing the trigger. But not only does it keep firing the ABR, every burst comes quicker and quicker until the gun is firing fully auto. And there's other guns which also have very powerful mod accelerators or operator mods, that's what it's called. Such as the Burst Accelerator, right? So, that's kind of questionable because it breaks away from the traditional attachment sense, and most weapons have their own special operator mod attachment. You have to give up quite a lot for it. You have to use a wild card, then you have to pick the attachment, and you have to give up attachment slots in order to do it. And on the ABR, I'm using Reflex, Quick Draw, Stock 2, which is also a thing. You get multiple attachments. We won't necessarily go into that because it's not really a big deal. And then the Burst Accelerator, and it only gives me room for like one perk, or the Stim Shot, and I don't have any perks. But the perks are kind of weak in this game, so that makes that playstyle actually viable to use those operator mods. And a lot of them are powerful, and I fear that they'll be so powerful that the assault rifle players will just give up their perks or even SMGs in order to have these very powerful weapons. That's a change to the game that you might not be aware of, but I'm yet to see how it will play out in competitive. One more thing we have is shotguns and secondaries. Shotguns have typically been completely banned from competitive play. Now there are secondaries and they only kill in 2 shots. So you can shoot someone a bit weak and then slide in and clean them up with a shotgun. I prefer them as secondaries than main rifles or main primary weapons, that's what I'm trying to say. Because it means that you don't have to make some of them very strong and very frustrating when you get one-shotted up close. If they're a secondary, you're expecting it to kill in 2 shots, say. So, I like the situation as it is right now with the shotguns. I hope they're allowed in competitive. I think they would add something. They can't be used as primaries, they're just not good enough. And that's just my thoughts on that briefly. I'll briefly touch on time to kill. I think I did mention this, how a high time to kill, actually maybe I didn't. High time to kill does increase the skill ceiling to an extent because you have to hit more shots in a row. Like you have to hit like 7 shots maybe with the MX9 or whatever, close range to kill a guy, 6-7 shots. That's pretty tough. But it does mean that over the course of a gunfight, the person with better aim is going to win the fight. And you can turn on a lot of people in this game if you're careful. However, it does make it very difficult to get 2 pieces, or even 3 pieces, especially with the SMG. If you go on a big flank with the SMG, you start shooting some guys in the back, you'll do well to get 1 if they're all sitting there, because the aim assist will mess you up a little bit, and even though it should encourage a skill ceiling, to an extent I'm worried that it'll enable people to leave the flanks open because they know that if they start getting shot in the back from very long range, they'll have time to react rather than just being dead for sure. Also, in face-to-face gunfights, it's very difficult to kill 2 people when you're face-to-face with them. I'm not sure whether this is good or bad, and theoretically you shouldn't be able to anyway, but it's almost impossible now. If I come into an engagement, there's 2 people looking at me, unless I do some incredible movement and get behind a wall or to only take one fight at a time, there's no way I'm winning that. In the past, if my shots were really good and they were slightly off, I could kill one, snap on the second and get the 2-piece. Not going to be possible in the current state of the game. But I think to an extent that does encourage team play and being like, well, we should focus on the buddy system, staying with my friend so I can always get the trades. I think that's going to be a factor. So overall I'm pretty happy with it. I think maybe the time to kill needs to be toned down slightly, maybe just give the weapons a bit more range. But I guess maybe I'm just not used to the game yet. I've only played 12 hours or so of it. It'll probably grow on me over time, but as of now I'm not so convinced it's so good having a time to kill that high. But I get the theory behind it. Anyway, that about does me for the video. I've talked about a lot of stuff. If you've got comments on anything, leave them down in the description box below. I'm sure I've rambled on quite a bit, but hopefully it was enjoyable to listen to. And hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay in the background as well. As courtesy of myself. And yeah, so I'll be back with more of these soon. Hopefully you enjoy it. Leave a like or do whatever bullshit you want down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.